as we continue from verse 8. If I, except I wash you, you are not having part with me. We had stopped at the phrase, you are not having part with me. Eches again is a present indicative active, second person singular from echo, and meras is just meaning a part. And met emu is from meta. Meta is the preposition that takes the genitive in emu, the personal pronoun in the genitive. Notice the elision of the alpha, met emu, before the vowel epsilon. So Jesus says, except I wash you, you're not having a part with me. In other words, you have to understand what I'm doing if you're going to participate in what I'm about, he is saying to Peter. So Peter then replies, Lege, verse 9, Elto Simon Petras, Kyria, me tus padas mu manan, Allah kaitas kairas kaitain kaphalein. Simon Peter says to him, again, lege is just your present indicative active, third person singular from lego, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Notice again, tus padus is in the accusative case with mu as the enclitic use of the ego, in the genitive case, ego, emu, and then we have mu, enclitic use of that personal pronoun. Not only my feet, but also the hands and the head. He wants the whole bath, so to speak. He says, and I get amused at Peter, he basically is saying, Lord, if I'm not going to have a part with you, then give me the whole bath, my hands and my head. And notice, kairos and kaphalein, both are nouns in the accusative case. Kairos is your accusative plural, and kaphalein is your accusative singular, both being feminine nouns. So then Jesus replies, verse 10, Lege alto cha Jesus. Jesus says to him, Cha lelumenas uk eche krean emetus padas nipsastai al estin katharas chalas kai chumes katharoi este al uchi pantes. Jesus says to him, the one who has been bathed. Notice, lelumenos is the perfect passive participle, nominative, masculine, singular, from luo, to bathe. We have the reduplication indicating the perfect, and we have the participial form in the passive, where the second to the next syllable is accented, the ante or the penultimate syllable rather than the antepenultimate, and the omicron being a short vowel. Here we would normally expect the accent to go back to u, lelu. However, in the perfect passive participial form, it only goes back one place. So the one who has been washed is not having need except to wash the feet. Again, notice the negative particle and the present indicative active, ekhe, of echo. Kreon is the accusative again, and eimi is translated except, and then we have the accusative again in tus padas. But then we come to the infinitive nipsastai. The one who has been bathed is not having need except for the feet to be washed. And here we have basically the root nipto, and we have the aorist tense here. And notice the astai ending is showing us that we are looking at an aorist that is a middle infinitive. And so basically, except to wash the feet. If you've been bathed all over and you come in from a dusty road, the only thing needed is that your feet be washed. And so Jesus makes a spiritual application, but you are all clean. In other words, but all is clean. In other words, if you take the whole bath, everything is clean, and the only thing you need to have washed are the dusty feet when you come in from the outside. And so he says, you are clean, kai chumes kathro estin, but not all. And again, Jesus is implying here that the apostles have all been clean spiritually, except one who is Judas. It is interesting that the katharoi here is the plural masculine from katharas, and then este is the present indicative active second person plural from ami. So you are all clean ones, or clean, but not all. And he's now going to talk about Judas, who would betray him. Notice verse 11. Eide gar tan paradidanta autan diatuta epen hati uchi pantes kathroestin. For he was knowing, or he had known. Eide is from oida in the perfect, and so this is a pluperfect use of oida, third masculine singular, for he had known the one who was about to betray him. Notice tan paradidanta is a participial form from paradidomi. It is the accusative masculine singular participle with the definite article, and it's referring to Judas Iscariot, who would be the one that would betray him. And John wants us to know that Jesus was aware of that even before it happened, again showing his deity. And so he goes on, dia tuta, on account of this. Notice dia here takes the accusative with tuta, the preposition with the accusative, and tuta is the accusative singular, neuter, from hutas, the demonstrative pronoun. On account of this, he said, apen is from the root lego. It's a second aorist, indicative active, third person singular from lego. On account of this, he said that not all of you are not all clean. In other words, Jesus was thinking that everyone is clean spiritually except one. And that one, of course, is Judas, who has not really received him, and hence who is not clean. And so Jesus goes on to make application now of what he has been teaching by way of an example. He says, Chateun anipsin tus padas alton, kai eleventa chematia altu, kai anepisin palin, epen altois, genoskateti pepoeka humin. Then when, notice we have the conjunction and the adverb, then when, in hati, anipsin, he washed or had washed. Here we have the aorist indicative active, third person singular from nipto. Nipto, notice when the sigma is added, the p and the tau, or the become psi. And it's the aorist, again, indicative active, third person singular from nipto. Therefore, when he washed their feet and took his garments, notice elaben is from lambano, and it is also the second aorist indicative active third person singular from lambano. So he took the garments of him. Ta hemation is the neuter accusative plural noun with the definite article, and the personal pronoun autou in the genitive. So when he took his garments and he reclined again, anapipto is the root, and this is the aorist indicative active third person singular from anapipto. So he reclined again, and he said to them, apen, second aorist indicative active third person singular, he said to them, do you know what I have done to you? Notice genoskete is the present indicative active second person plural from genosko, and now we have the interrogative pronoun what. Pepoieka is from poieo, contract verb. It is the perfect indicative active first person singular from poieo. Notice the reduplication in the pe. Notice, do you know what I have done to you? And humin is the dative of the second person personal pronoun. Do you know what I've done to you? He asked them after he reclined again, do you really understand what I have been teaching you, what I have set before you? He then applies it in verse 13. Humes phone teme ha didaskalas kai ha kurios kai kalos legate emi gar. You call me teacher and Lord. Notice humes is just your nominative plural of the second person personal pronoun. You are calling me, and phoneta is from phoneo, to call. It is the present indicative active second person plural from phoneo. You call me, me is just your accusative, enclitic again, from the personal pronoun ego. You call me the teacher. And this is a title of honor. Ha didaskalos. You call me the teacher and the Lord. This is, again, looking at a great title of lordship of Jesus Christ and teacher. And you say, well, in other words, what you're really saying is the truth. Legate is just your present indicative active second person plural from lego. You say, well, and kalos is your adverb. Emi gar, for I am. Notice emi is just your present indicative active first person singular from emi. Jesus accepts the title of lordship, of deity, and of teacher. You're calling me teacher. You're calling me Lord. You're master. And I am that. And then he begins to apply the illustration that he has been giving in the next verse, verse 14. Eun ego enipsa humon tus padas ha kurias kai ha didaskalas kai humes aphelete alelus niptain tus padas. Notice Jesus says, if I, who am your Lord, and notice the emphatic use of a go here, if I, enipsa, washed your feet, the one who is the Lord and teacher. Enipsa is the aorist indicative active first person singular from nipto. Notice the augment and the psi again, where the pi, the tau, and the sigma have coalesced and have become a psi in this aorist tense. If I have washed your feet, the one that is Lord and teacher, then you ought to wash the feet of one another. Notice kai humes aphelete. Aphelete, again, is just your present indicative active. Second person plural from aphelo. And then niptain, you ought to wash. Niptain is your present infinitive active from nipto. So you ought to wash the feet of one another. Tus padas is your accusative, and alelon is the genitive of one another. Notice that Jesus is saying, if I, as your teacher, have done this, that is, I've washed your feet, and I'm your Lord, and I'm your Master, then it's not below you to do that. You ought to wash one another's feet. For Jesus said, I've given you an example in this. Notice in verse 15, Hupadegma gar eduka humen, chenekathos ego poiesa humen, kai humes poietet. For I have given you an example, in order that just as I have done, thus also you should do. The word hupagdema means, it's a noun in the accusative case, and it means an illustration, an example. I have given you an illustration or an example, and he's looking at how you need to serve one another, just as I have served you by this example. Eduka is the aorist indicative, or is the Eduka, I have given you an example. Eduka is the aorist indicative active, first person singular from didomi. So I have given you an example, henna, in order that just as I have done, or just as I have done. Notice kathos is a comparative conjunction here. Ego is the first person personal pronoun I, and it's emphatic. I did. Poiesa is from poieo. It is the aorist indicative active, first person singular. Notice the sigma indicating the aorist and the epsilon. Just as I have done to you, then also you should do. Poiete is the present subjunctive, second person plural from poieo. And it's the aorist subjunctive, second person plural from poieo. Whenever you see henna, it often will introduce a subjunctive. And so, I have given you an example, just as I have done to you, thus also you should do. So, he is saying in this actually present subjunctive in poieta, second masculine plural, just as I have done, so you should do. I've given you an illustration, an example. You need to serve one another. You need to become servants just like I have. And he'll apply this then in verse 16. Amen, amen. Verily, verily. Truly, truly. Confirmatively, lego humen, I say to you. Notice again the simple present indicative active of lego. I am saying to you, uk estin doulas metson tu kyriou altu. A servant is not greater than his Lord. And notice the word metson is a comparative use of the adjective here. So we would translate the tu kyriou following metson as with than, a comparative sense. So a servant is not greater than his Lord. neither an apostle greater than to Pimpsantas Altan, the one who sent him. Notice again, to Pimpsanta is the participial form of pimpo. It is the aorist participle, genitive, singular, from pimpo, to sin. Pimpo becoming pimps when you add the sigma with the psi here. So the apostle is not greater than the one who sent him. Jesus is driving home the point that a servant is not greater than his Lord, nor an apostle greater than the one who has sent him. And so if I've done this, then how much more do you need to serve one another and not lord it over each other? He applies that then in verse 17. E tauta oidate, if you do these things, that is, if you serve one another, and you wash one another's feet. And notice, oidata is just your perfect indicative active, second person plural, but it has a present meaning. If you do these things, and tauta is the accusative plural from hutas, demonstrative pronoun again. If you do these things, and it is neuter, then makarioi estin, blessed are you, or happy are you. If you know these things, then happy are you if you do them. Again, poeta, that subjunctive. If you do these things, then you will indeed be happy, and you'll be blessed. So the Lord is teaching servitude here. We are to be servants of one another. We are to do what the Lord did. He took the role of a servant in relationship to the apostles. And He was their Lord. He was their divine Lord. And yet He was willing to take the role of serving. So we need to be serving one another in the way that the Lord served His apostles and left that example. And so as we go on in verse 18, U peripanton humon lego, I am not concerning all of you, I am not speaking concerning all of you. Now he's going to apply the fact that not all are clean spiritually. So I'm not speaking concerning all of you. Ego oida, I know whom I have chosen. Exelexamen is from eklego, to choose. Notice it is the aorist indicative middle, first person singular, from eklego. And notice the xi here precedes the epsilon, showing the aorist, and lego, when you add a sigma to that gamma key of the form eklego, it changes to xi in the aorist. And this is a first person middle aorist indicative active. For I know whom I have chosen. But in order that the scripture might be fulfilled, notice al is the sharp contrast here and the conjunction, and then hina is the preposition that will introduce the subjunctive again, in order that the scripture might be fulfilled. And the root here is plerao, a contract verb. Notice the theta eta is indicative of an aorist passive subjunctive from plerao. So he is saying, but in order that the scripture might, that it, in its third person singular, that it might be fulfilled. And now he quotes from the Old Testament, or from the Hebrew Scriptures, in verse 18. He's going to quote from Psalm 41:9. The one who eats the bread has raised his heel against me. Notice ha trogon is from trogo. It is the present active participle, nominative masculine singular. So the one who eats my bread, again the enclitic mu of ego in the genitive here, and then the bread is the accusative, has raised from apyro to raise. Again, it is the aorist indicative active, third person singular. So the one who eats my bread has raised against me his heel. And panernon, meaning heel, is in the accusative case. In other words, he's thinking of Judas as he quotes this text. Even though he's eating his bread and being a close, at least apparent, close friend with Jesus, he really is the one who is going to betray him. And he is not elect because he has not accepted Christ as his Lord, and hence has not been spiritually cleansed, Jesus is saying. So I know whom I have chosen. He's chosen those apostles who have accepted him, but not Judas, who has not accepted him and has lifted up his heel against him. And so in verse 9 he goes on, aparti lego humin, from now I say to you, I'm saying it now from this point, before it happens. Notice pra tu genestai. Genestai is the aorist middle infinitive from genomai, and it's going with the preposition pra in the genitive case, and it's an articular use of the infinitive. So from now I'm saying this to you before it happens. Before, literally to become, before it occurs or it happens, in order that you might believe. Hena pistuseter. Notice hena is introducing the subjunctive again, and the conjunction with the subjunctum pistuo. Notice the sigma and the eta gives it away as an aorist subjunctive, in order that you might believe, and it is second person plural, that you might believe when it happens. Genetai is from genomi. It is the aorist, when it should happen, we should say, aorist subjunctive, third person singular from genomai, in order that when it should happen, that I am. So the aorist subjunctive middle is a deponent verb, genetai, that I am. Notice ego eimi. This is a famous phrase that occurs throughout John's Gospel, looking, I think, at the same title that the Lord used of himself in Exodus chapter 3. Who do I tell them has sent me? Moses is told, Eyeh asher eyeh, I am that which I am. That you'll know that I am co-equal with the great I am, who is my Father. That I am sharing that title with him of eternal being, eternal equality. And you'll know this when these things should come to pass that I've been predicting about Judas. Verily, verily, he says in verse 20, Amen, amen, lego humin. Truly, truly, I say to you, the one who receives a certain one is receiving me. Whom I will send is receiving me. Notice ha lambanon is the present active participle, nominative masculine singular from lambano. It's articular with the article. So the one who is receiving the one or whom. Here we have the indefinite relative pronoun in the accusative case. So the one who receives whom I shall sin. Pimpso is from pimpo, to sin. And notice it's the future tense here. Whom I will send is receiving me. And lambane is just your present indicative active, third masculine singular from lambano. So the one who receives, whom I shall send, is receiving me. But, de is in sharp contrast here, the one who, and we could say the one who receives me, de here is really just and instead of sharp contrast. And the one who receives me, notice ha lambanon, another articular use of the present active participle, nominative masculine singular, and eme is just your accusative singular of the personal pronoun ego. So the one who is receiving me is receiving lambane tan pimpsantame, the one who has sent me. And notice tan pimpsanta is the aorist active participle, accusative singular from pimpo. So the one who is receiving me is really receiving my Father, the one who has sent me. So Jesus is warning here about the one who would betray him, showing his full deity, that he knew this in advance. And furthermore, he goes on to say that those who receive, whomever I shall send, is not only receiving me, but receiving the one who sent me, is receiving the Father. And so, what a beautiful conclusion to encourage his apostles as they carry out the ministry that he's called them to do. Those that would receive them are receiving Jesus, and those that are receiving them are also receiving the Father who has sent Jesus. So at this point, we come now to where Jesus will talk about his betrayal in further detail.